Hi, in our discussion today, we're talking to Tom from Meedan. Tom, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, my name is Tom Trewinnard. I work on the Checkdesk project for Meedan. Checkdesk is an open source toolkit and workflow for verifying eyewitness media.
Okay, and what are you going to show us today?
Today I'm just going to walk you through the basics of Checkdesk. We're going to look at how to create a story, and then we're going to look at how we can incorporate some social media sources in our reporting and go through a little bit of fact-checking and verification on those links.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll leave it to you then, as you could take the helm.
All right. So, what we see here is this is Meedan's version of Checkdesk. And so what you'll see is each of our partners has their own Checkdesk instance, Checkdesk platform that they do their work on. This is Meedan's, and it looks like a conventional news page. We have a featured story up at the top here, and then we've got some sections. These are different topics that we cover, and in each of these we'll see various stories that the Meedan team has worked on and covered over the past couple of months.
Okay, and just to clarify, how do people get their own version of this, the platform? Can anybody do this, or is it?
Yeah, well, we have some partners who have platforms that are already set up and are ready to go. But we also have the code is all on GitHub, and so if you're technically minded, you can download that and install that on your own servers. So we've yesterday actually I was working with a group who's done that themselves, and I was giving them a tour. So it is possible. It's a little technically difficult. One of the things that we're looking at working on in not too distant future is making it more accessible so that you don't have to have that kind of technical skill set to set up a platform.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So what I'm going to show you to start with is how to create a story. Let's just look at one example of a story. This is a case I worked on from Syria. And what we have here is a featured image and a headline, and then inside the story we have a lot of different kinds of media, tweets and links and photos. You'd often see videos, and you can add all kinds of media to a story on Checkdesk. And what we've done here is I've tried to investigate just one tweet and one photo that claims to show something. And this whole story is all the investigation that I went through to get to verified. And so let's start by looking at how to create a story. So on the left-hand side here, or the right-hand side if you're working in Arabic, we have various options: create report, create story, search, and then these ones allow you to navigate some of the content. So we're just going to hit create story, and today we're going to work on a story about the plane crash in Egypt that happened in Sinai last week. It's an example of where there was lots of photos and videos that were quickly emerging that maybe weren't so true. So we're going to just quickly write investigating metro jet crash in Sinai.
And sorry, this panel on the left that you've got here that looks like a Twitter feed. Where has that come from?
Yes, so these are all reports. So I'm going to show you a little bit later how to add a report. But this feed on the left shows all the reports that anybody who's working on this platform has added to the system. So it could be whatever people have seen online that they think needs investigating, or it could be topics that they think you've missed in your coverage. So some of our partners are newsrooms, and their communities will post tweets or videos or images here that show stories that aren't being covered that maybe they want journalists to cover, or they want journalists to investigate. And so in this case, just for the purposes of this video, I have added this report before, but here we can see a lot of different reports that are coming in onto the Meedan platform. So this is probably added by me and my colleagues, and we can see all kinds of different things here. But we can filter this by keyword or status or by source. We can sort it different ways. But this is really an incoming feed of social media sources that people have added, and I'll show you a little bit later how to add those. So what we have here is the story. It allows us to set the context, explain what it is that we're investigating, and so you can add some editorial text here. So photos and videos from Sinai are being shared widely on social networks. And then what we can do is just drag the report over here. It creates this little slug here that represents that bit of media. If we want to, we can add a featured image. We can also add tags here, which just helps people find the content. And we're going to add this to the Egypt section as well. And so I can hit create story. Now, if you're a citizen journalist and you're registered on any of the Checkdesk platforms, you can actually start your own stories. You can't publish it right away, like I just did. But what you can do is submit that story that you've worked on to journalists who will then review it. And if they think what you've worked on is really strong, then they'll publish it. If not, they may come back to you, and there might be a bit of back and forth. But all Checkdesk instances now, you can simply create your own story and submit it, and hopefully the journalists working in the newsroom will find what you've done interesting and publish it.
And when you say journalists and publish, you mean on the Checkdesk platform?
Right, on the Checkdesk platform. So we can see that this story is published now. If we go back to the home page, I didn't set this one as the featured story, but we should see it appear down here. So this is the story that we just created. I didn't add a featured image, so it kind of looks a little sparse there. So here we can see this is the headline, and this is the report I've just added. And so what we can do now is this is kind of the start of the investigation. And if I want to tweet out this link, then I can do that over here. Sinai videos and drop that in. And now my community, my followers on Twitter are going to kind of jump into the investigation. And what they're going to see is this story. And down here, we have two options. One is to add a report, which is open to anybody. Everybody who's signed into the platform will see that. And we also have compose update. And so what we want to do now is we're going to add a couple of reports of videos that were being shared both by Egyptian and Western media following the crash in the kind of the hours following that. That probably we should hold up to some more scrutiny. So I found these videos just via Twitter and looking around. I think there's courses on Arab citizen media actually about how to find news via social media and how to search social media for this kind of thing. But typically when stories are breaking, you will see a lot of people sharing a lot of things, and there's a good reason to need to investigate that. And so what we'll see here are these two videos. This is a video that claims to show the plane blowing up mid-air. It has, you probably can't hear, it has quite kind of nice background music, and then the plane explodes. And then we have this other video, which is it's a screen grab actually from an Egyptian news channel, and it claims to show this video which shows a plane in slow motion kind of falling out of the sky. So both of the speed with which these videos appeared after the crash should make us suspicious, but there are other things that we can look at, and other angles that we can take to find out whether these are real. And so what I just did was I just clicked add report on that story, and it takes us to this page where you basically can just drop in the URL, and it's going to create this preview of the video. This is playable. I've just muted the sound here, but this is the video that we've just seen. We can add a little bit of description here as context, sometimes useful, especially if you're submitting reports to stories where or submitting reports where there aren't stories, to explain here why this might be an important video or why a journalist might want to take a look at this. So this video was shared by an Egyptian news channel.
And so in this case, you're kind of taking the broad incident of that plane crash and then looking for the various what people are saying are reports of one kind or another, and compiling them together into this story. But in some other cases, you might be looking at one particular argument or case that's being made, that this is a photo that was taken so and so, and then you might be collecting other evidence for or against that argument.
Yeah, exactly. So this is so here we have this incident where there's going to be lots of things that we need to investigate, and I guess then we could actually look, if we wanted to drill down into each of these videos in a lot of detail, then we could also do that. We're going to try and we're going to keep it fairly high level, just for the purposes of showing how Checkdesk works. But yeah, you could imagine that there might be one photo or one video that is really kind of merits a lot of investigation, and so Checkdesk is also a way that you can bring in links. I've added the link, and we've got the video which is playable here. I'm going to add it to this story, and I'm just going to add some text here. So I added these texts to the story as well. Metrojet, you can say video, and the tags just help us again. You can imagine if there are hundreds of reports that could be talking about many different things, it's really useful to sometimes drill down and be able to see what are all the fake reports that have been tagged as being from Egypt, or all the fake reports that are tagged related to videos or weapons. So the tags just help the people on the platform, both the citizen journalists and the journalists, find different types of content. So I'm just going to hit submit here. If this video showed something really graphic, which is not uncommon when you're working with eyewitness and social media, sometimes there's kind of visual or audio that can be quite difficult to watch, or it's some it's in some way graphic. And if that's the case, then we'd recommend just if you just cross-check this box, it just puts a little screen up over here that makes sure that nobody's going to see anything that they didn't really intend to see. So I don't think that's relevant in this case, but it is there, and we encourage people to use it judiciously. Some of the videos that come out of Syria in particular and Libya are really grisly. So just checking that box can make sure that anybody who's reading the site or following the story isn't going to see something that they kind of aren't ready to see. So we click submit here, and it just creates this little report and packages it up. And so we can actually see that has dropped into the collaboration tab. So there's two tabs on these stories. One is for updates, which is where journalists are publishing updates or new developments in the story, and there's the collaboration tab. This shows all the activity that the journalists and citizen journalists are working on. It kind of lifts it's kind of a look under the bonnet of the story. You can kind of see what's going on, see who's adding what reports, and what the status is of those reports. So this is the one that we just added. You can see earlier I've added this other report and created the story, and so we're just going to add one more report, and then we'll start some investigation. So I'm going to grab. We've added this report from Egyptian TV. We're going to add this one that claims to show the moment that ISIS shot down the plane in Egypt, and this just lets you see again the add report flow. It's pretty simple. Click add report, drop in the link. Again, we see the video. This is the story that it's been assigned to. If I wanted to, I could assign this to other stories. These are the other ones that we've worked on. I'm going to keep it with the Metrojet story here. and just add some tags. And we'll submit that. And so now we have, in this story, at the top we have what we published earlier, and then under the collaboration we have the different reports that I've added. And so what we do from here, because we're not too sure about the veracity of these reports or the credibility, we've seen these videos come out very quickly and be shared quite widely on social media. But we're not too sure if they really show what they claim to show. So what we're going to do here is just, with these 3 dots, you can open up a range of options here. And we're just going to turn on fact-checking for each of these videos. And what that does is it opens up a little check log under each of these where we can start, and we can do this collaboratively, to ask questions about what's going on here, and we can see that there's a status that's been assigned here in progress.
So it's kind of saying we've opened the box. This is still under investigation.
This is still under investigation. We are not sure that this is what this shows what it claims to show, but we're working on it. And so what we'd ask here is. We might ask the question, how did On TV get this footage so quickly? And so here, this is really a way for journalists and citizen journalists to work as a community around asking questions, adding links that might corroborate this, or finding issues with this that might give us cause to change this. So this at the moment, this is marked in progress. So we're working on it, but we can assign any of these statuses here. So really the goal is to be able to say, is this false or is this verified, and show in these footnotes why we're claiming that this is either false or verified. And so this is quite important, because what we often see, and one of the reasons why fake news gets shared so widely during breaking news situations, is that if there's videos that are being shared online, it's quite challenging for news organizations. Obviously have a time pressure. Newsrooms have a time concern where they don't want to publish fake information, but they also don't want to be seen not to be out of touch or not covering something.
And they can be missing the scoop, whereas another station might pick it up and.
Exactly. So there's kind of a time element, there's a competitive element, and so what we aim to do with this status is to allow a kind of a safe way for newsrooms now. Now we've got this link, and I can share this. We can publish it if we want to. We can embed this on our news website, but it's really clear that this is not something that we've verified. This is something that we're still working on. And when you embed this, it embeds with all the questions, all the footnotes that have been added here. And so it's really we think of it as a safer way to share some of this questionable media, especially when it's, the news is still very much breaking, and there's still important questions that need to be asked.
So when you're sharing that, if you share that report, which is part of the larger story, if you share that on Twitter and you're kind of asking these questions of it, and somebody picks it up on Twitter, do they need to have an account on one of the platforms to be able to contribute to that?
They can, they'd need to. We see reports being discussed, and then people bring in the comments different ways. If somebody is tweeting about something, then you can obviously bring a link into a tweet into the footnotes, which is one way of cross-referencing. But yeah, and most platforms actually, most of our partner platforms are welcoming of new members, and it's very easy to sign up. I should actually show you how to sign up and sign in. I could probably do that at the end. Maybe we can. And so what we're really looking for here is what are the other things here that we can start to question whether this video really shows what it claims to show. And so we can see in slow motion, it's a little strange that this plane was apparently shot down over the middle of the desert in Sinai. So the presence of these cars is instantly kind of troubling. We don't really typically see lampposts in the middle of Sinai. And what we could start to do is to take still images from this screen. So we could maybe pause it here, and if we enlarged this and grabbed a screen grab, we could start to do some image analysis and reverse image searching to see whether this video, really what we want to know is, has this video appeared on the internet anywhere before this crash happened?
And even from that still, I'm guessing you could get a sense of whether that's the same model plane, because you can get a bit of detail of the plane from that, can't you?
Yeah, you could start to see, you can see here there's 4 engines on this plane. And we know obviously what model of plane it was that crashed, and so I think it was an Airbus. And we could start to ask whether these are the right engines. Typically you don't see passenger aircraft, for example, with 4 engines. Usually passenger planes have 2 engines. This kind of looks like more military. I'm not a weapons expert, but there are a lot of databases that document what different kind of planes look like to very, very specific models, and so you can start to do that investigation work. There's also tools like this is the Amnesty YouTube data viewer, which actually pulls out all kinds of photos from this, and you can start to reverse image search, and it will give you the upload time of these things. And so I did some of these, and it didn't turn out. But what you sometimes need to do is cut away, is kind of crop away all of these logos and text. And once you're focusing just on the plane, or just on the what you're seeing in the video itself, then you can start to find stuff. And so this is there's lots of questions we can ask here. Happily, our verification colleagues at Storiful did some quick digging on this, and they found that this was this video was from 2013 in Afghanistan. And so daily debunk is a good hashtag. People will post debunks often during kind of breaking situations. And so I'm pretty sure what they did here was to look at the visual elements. They could maybe try and use some of the landscape around here to see whether this landscape and the kind of profile of the terrain matches the terrain in Egypt, or whether there were roads. We can also see, it would be if there were kind of lots of cars of people who'd seen this plane, then you'd expect to find a lot of reports or people tweeting or posting to Facebook, "I've just seen a plane crash." There'd be a lot of photos emerging.
And that's a coach there, isn't it? So you could imagine that this coach load of people might have been reporting it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there's lots of reasons that we have to be dubious of this. They're also just saying up here, it says just in Arabic that they found this online on the internet, so they don't really have really expressing a strong affiliation for the source or explaining what the source is here. So lots of red flags. And then if we took maybe probably it would take 20 minutes or half an hour or so of investigation around this to find the original old video, which is from Afghanistan. So
the first step is to say this is not what it purports to be, and the second step, if possible, is to say, and this is where it was from.
Right. So yeah, the first question that you should be asking when you're see videos or photos is this what it claims to be? And the quickest way, the most common thing that we see, and you see it in all kinds of events, is that old media is recycled, is kind of stripped of its context. It's removed from the story that it was in. So this video was about a real event that happened in Afghanistan in 2013. So it looks real. It has a very authentic feel to it. It's not been staged, for example. This is a real piece of media, but it's been stripped of its context of what it was originally about, and recycled. And it's, sometimes that can be quite powerful, especially with video, where it's very difficult to do a reverse image search. With photos, you can tell very quickly if a photo has appeared online before the event that it claims to show. And so, and really, if you can prove that that a photo or a video has been around since 2013, then you can say right away that you can debunk that you can say this is not Egypt. And if you want to, you can then follow the thread and say this is actually Afghanistan. Here's the original context and the original story. But really, we just need to be able to say, is this Egypt? And if not, if we can do a reverse image search, then we can say for sure this video has been around since 2013. And you can see in Europe at the moment, we're seeing a lot of examples of this with the refugee crisis. We're seeing a lot of images from 2010, 2011 from protests in France. There was a train video. There was a very widespread photo in Germany of people holding a flag that people were claiming was ISIS. It shows that Syrian refugees are ISIS. The photo was from 2013 from a protest, and so it's a really common thing, and it's one of the with images, it's one of the easiest things to detect. With videos, we have to do a bit more work. So this is one example, and again, we're going to look. We made a report of this video, and so what we can do here is now we can see we can add what our concerns are, what the flags are.
I mean, I guess you could look at things like weather reports for that day and things like that, because that's obviously quite a grey day there. And if it was raining when it was, or should have been raining.
Exactly. So there's not often grey skies over Sinai, for example. It's a very, it's a beautiful desert, very mountainous landscape. So there's lots of questions that we could ask that would cause us to raise flags here. And so the check log here, the verification footnotes, are a good space to add that, because they're, as I said, these are then bound to this video, and we can share this video as its own discrete unit. We can embed it with all this context. And we could, and in this check log, we could add the links that are supporting the claims that we've made. So a good example of this is our partners at Bellingcat. Let me show you some of the work that they did.
We've spoke to VP. Is that name for the previous course? I think. And he was showing us about the tanks, I think, so...
Excellent. Well, for some reason, it's not loading. Which doesn't bode well for my internet, I suspect. But anyway, you could have you can have numerous people, and so verification is actually quite time-consuming work, and it can take a while. And Jez, you've come up with 2 or 3 reasons why this video might be fake. I've come up with a few. The check log is really a space for collaboration. So for you to add your concerns about the weather, about whether there would be any eyewitnesses in the car, I can add my concerns about the Sinai landscape. And we could start to do different, sort of break off different bits of the work to help establish whether this is true or false. So what I've done here is I've just added a red flag, and we'd obviously, if this were a real situation, we'd want to go into a lot more detail about this. But I'm going to assign a status here and say this is false. And if we click Add Footnote there, you can see that it changes to false. We keep this record of what's been changed when. And now if we embed this, or wherever this report is embedded, it's going to show up as false. So now we have...
So when you changed it to false there, if another contributor does that, does it have to go through an admin checking process first?
Right. So any users, journalist or citizen journalist on the platform can add footnotes. I think at the moment only journalists can assign statuses. I think citizen journalists may be able to, like you said, suggest a status that will then be reviewed. But the footnotes is really a space to kind of make your case and say, I think this is false because the weather doesn't look right. There's too many cars. The engines on the wings don't look like a passenger plane. And then have a journalist come back and say and check that work and see whether they can replicate what you found. So in the Bellingcat examples, we see very specific geolocation of saying this video is taken at this time and at this place. And so what you'd typically see is other community members would come in and check that and see if they replicate it and see if they agree with what the first person's found, and then they will say, yes, I agree with that. That's verified, or no, that's false.
So just to clarify, journalist and citizen journalist are two different statuses of user?
Right, so exactly. So in the system we have two classifications of user: a journalist who kind of can do everything on the platform, and a citizen journalist who can really do most of the things that a journalist can do, but just with a layer of journalist review. So this is for newsrooms, especially in places like Egypt and Jordan, where news organizations are kind of legally liable for content that's hosted on their site. So we needed to build in a review process there to make sure that there was some kind of editorial oversight and that people could, but also a way for journalists to give feedback to citizen journalists on stories and on things that might, other avenues that might need pursuing, or other ways that stories can be improved. So it's kind of a collaboration workflow. But citizen journalists can certainly can add reports to any story. They can open up reports for fact checking. They can add footnotes. They can create their own stories and bring in these reports. And the journalist's role really is just a kind of an additional level of review and editorial control.
Okay, excellent. And so I think as long as that was everything that you wanted to cover for that aspect, the final thing we were going to look at was how to create an account and sign in and sign out.
Sure. Yeah.
Because now you've whet our appetite. Everybody will be.
And so. Let me just log out here. So to sign up, all you need to do, we have this nice blue box up at the top right-hand side. And what you can do here is if you want to sign up with a Twitter account or a Facebook account, you can just click one of those. And if you're signed into Twitter or Facebook on the browser, it will authenticate through that and bounce you back. If you don't have Twitter or Facebook, you can just create a new account and add your email address here and quickly select a password and hit sign up. It probably won't let me do this because I probably already have an account at this address, but we can see. Yeah, so it tells me that I've already got an account here. But once you've made an account, you can then. So I'm actually signed in to Twitter at the moment. So if I want to sign into my Checkdesk account, I can just click sign in through Twitter, and it will send me off to Twitter and return me to Checkdesk. And now you can see up here that I'm logged in. And this is your profile page, where here you can see all the stories that you've worked on. These are the stories where I've been the author, so I've worked on some Syria stories, some Egypt stories, a Yemen story here. And we can also look at the stories that I'm following. So when you add a report to a story or contribute in fact-checking one of the reports, then you're then following that story, and you can see here all those different stories that I've worked on or contributed to somehow, or even just clicked followed. So at the top here, you can see there's an option to follow or unfollow this story. And that's it. And then we have up at the top right, we have notifications. This is going to tell you if somebody's updated a story that you're working on or has added a report to a story that you're working on. So it's a good way of kind of checking the pulse of who's doing what on the Checkdesk and where you might want to get stuck in. And I think that's it.
Yeah, and I think in doing this, we've covered kind of how you would contribute to a story that you've seen or you come across, because you can find the stories on one of your partners' platforms, or you might come across one through Twitter feeds and things like that.
Exactly.
And then as long as you're logged in, then you can start contributing to those distinct little report sections.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, if you sign up for an account on the Bellingcat Checkdesk, for example, you can create a story and you can start to add reports to it. It will just then be sent to the journalists who are working on that platform and kind of the administrators, the editors of that, and they can then publish that. But you can certainly do the work of creating a story, bringing in reports, making a case. So it might be, or starting an investigation, for example. You just work with the people who are running the site to kind of get that published and launched. But I think that in most cases they'd be happy to do that. Our partner, kind of Checkdesk partners, are pretty open and kind of community driven. They want collaboration around this kind of work, and so I'd encourage people to sign up for instances, create stories, and if people have any questions about what's going on, then you can tweet at Checkdesk. And
then Checkdesk is just spelt as it sounds, CheckDesk. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's Checkdesk.
I often think it's got a weird spelling, but it doesn't. It's got a really normal spelling.
No, we kept it simple. So you can tweet us at Checkdesk or at Meedan. I think if you go to the Checkdesk homepage, you'll find my email address somewhere. And then we also have a newsletter that I send out weekly that really talks about, it highlights great work on Checkdesk. So a lot of the work that Bellingcat and Global Voices and others have done. But it also brings in a lot of the latest research on verification, a lot of the latest case studies. These are a lot of the techniques that people are using are developing and emerging all the time. And so it's really interesting to see case studies of how people have verified or debunked different videos and different images from different places, or used different social sources to kind of enhance their reporting.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much, Tom.
All right. Thank you, Jez.
Okay, excellent.